Today, we're looking at a red ink by Camlin Scarlet Red. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you're only interested in certain parts, you can skip around. But if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Viscosity Van Gogh with a medium nib. Used it to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on a standardized set of paper of Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I have this ink in bottle form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit darker than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and we are seeing shade spots throughout this writing. Like the PS in Jumps is quite a bit darker. Quick is quite a bit darker than Brown. Brown starts light and works its way lighter. It's unusual to see shading in a red ink. Very nice. 8 seconds to dry. Now, the medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and yes, we still get some nice shading. Brown starts dark, gets light, gets dark again. Jumps starts lighter and gets darker. Pretty nice. Lazy is dark at the top, lighter on the bottom. Pretty nice stuff, and 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation, and we are getting plenty of color variation. Tomoe River. No bleeding, very minor ghosting as far as Tomoe River goes. The 1.1 stub has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Man, I had trouble writing this day. You see it all over. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 11 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us really no color variation, and we didn't get any color variation. And then Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have a couple spots of shading. Camlin starts lighter, gets darker. Scarlet starts lighter, gets darker at the let. Red is a nice darker word in comparison to them. Now the extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and it also is offering some nice shading. Brown starts darker, works its way lighter. Jumps starts lighter, works its way darker. So it gets some decent shading throughout the writing. Very surprising for a red ink again. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and yes, it still offers shading. Like Fox starts lighter and gets darker. Brown starts darker and gets lighter. Jumps starts lighter and gets darker. Nice. 12 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation. You have to look far left to far right on both. And we got plenty of color variation. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what I want to say is ignore the kind of yellowy bits that are there. That was a transfer from another ink while this was in storage, waiting for review. But what we see is this is a true prime red. It's pushing its way up, very light, getting darker as it moves up. Very nice stuff. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we really don't see a difference between these two inks, making me really not expect much resistance from this. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation because of how that H and the I completely blew out. Water's reactivating and lifting a lot of the ink. You can easily see the dots of the Rhodia dot pad, but I can also see the dots in the swab itself. We have a lot of red that's left there. I'm not sure that water is going to do everything I need. Now, pen flush, we easily see the white of the paper there, making pen flush all that you would need to get this out of your pen. So you wouldn't need the 1/3 bleach solution, although it completely obliterates it from the paper. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Camlin's Scarlet Red has a viscosity of 1.67, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Camlin's Scarlet Red has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it just a little bit faster drying than normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Camlin's Scarlet Red, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a nice turquoise and went with Diamine's Aqua Lagoon. The second writing sample is done on TWSBI, Moleskin, and Moji paper. Now let's look at this on TWSBI notebook paper. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us a little bit of color variation, just a little, although we're really not getting it in the writing, it's more from the nib. Now we have the Monokaki paper. No bleeding, minor ghosting, really not too bad. The 1.1 stub has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 6 seconds to dry. The medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us really no color variation, and we didn't get it in the writing. Again, more from the nib. And then Moji notebook. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Again, 4 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the stub and the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Camlin's Scarlet Red? It is a screaming, obnoxious red ink. It performs well, it's well behaved, it actually does shade. Now I say it's screaming and obnoxious because it is absolutely not the red tone for me. However, it is a very good red ink if you like red inks, and it's super inexpensive. So what pen and nib would give the best writing experience with this ink? Certainly not a stub, which makes it much lighter and really unpleasant to look at. But a wet, finer pen really does put down the nicest version of this ink. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.